What's up, everybody? My name is Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and also we're streaming live simultaneously in totality in 3 separate locations. The Heavy on Jets Facebook page, over 20,000 Jet fans. My YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. And, of course, on the old Twitter account, Team Verified, baby, at BoyGreen25. BOY, green the color 25, and it's always scrolling down on the ticker below. Thanks for joining us here tonight on a Wednesday edition of the Boy Green and Buffalo Show. Feel free to get involved in the comments section. This is an interactive program, so if you have questions, comments, topics you'd like to get to, feel free to throw them in there. We're going to get you ready for New York Jets, Buffalo Bills. Looking forward, talk about the ever-evolving Zach Wilson situation that Buffalo is getting in bar street brawls with fans. I'm dragging him from the bar. Buffalo, it's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. As I'm dragging him away from other battles and things with Zach Wilson. So without further ado, let's bring him the handsome hunk himself, it's almost like the Ohio State, the Buffalo Jet fan. Again, his channel is down below if you'd like to visit it as well. Buffalo, what's up, man?
What's going on, Paul? Good to be here, bud.
Yeah, let's just go right off there. Let's get spicy, as the kids say. And I've seen you get in a couple of UFC octagon fights, and I kind of feel like it's a car crash, and I'm driving to work, and on the side of the road, I'm like, oh, what's happening over there? It's you fighting with other Jet fans. So let's kind of lay the groundwork here for Zach Wilson, a guy that is 4-1 as a starting quarterback for the New York Jets, but the latest is an absolutely ugly loss that, let's be honest, he may not have said it after the game in terms of quote-unquote shouldering the loss, but I think all of us can do it for him with those 3 brutal, Robert Saleh called them back-breaking turnovers, and they absolutely were, and the Jets were in that game the entire time. Coulda, shoulda, woulda won. Of course they did not. They lose 22-17, but those 3 interceptions were absolutely awful, and that really sent Jet fans all over the place. A lot of people were questioning Zach Wilson anyway throughout this entire run because they weren't seeing 300 yards. They weren't seeing a lot of the things they were hoping to see. But this loss just was the straw that broke the camel's back and allowed a lot of people to kind of rip off on Zach Wilson. So anywho, I've seen you get into a lot of fights. Why don't you share your side of the story on the platform, and what do you make ultimately of the Zach Wilson beef that has evolved and is kind of alive and out there among Jet fans arguing with each other?
It's interesting, Paul. It's never my hot takes. I throw some hot takes out there, and it's fine because my hot takes are usually positive. Sometimes I just make mundane observations, and I get death threats. It's interesting. But here's the world we're living in. We're living in Zach Wilson politics. That's what it is, right? Where you have the extreme Zach Wilson season, bruh. Zach Wilson stand. He's gonna be fine. I know this is exactly what Zach Wilson's underwear smells like. I can tell you personally. And then over here, it's Zach Wilson is a horrible. He's a bust. He's a bum. We should have taken Justin Fields. We should start Mike White, Chris Trevler, who's never started enough. And then I think where most of us live, like 80% of Jets fans, is in the logical middle. And what happens is the people in the logical middle, they don't appease both sides. No. They get killed from both sides. So if you say, man, Zach Wilson should step up into the pocket a little bit more, you're a piece of trash. The offensive line is horrible. Michael Floyd can't go. And it's like, wait a minute. Why are you a toxic Jets fan for just criticizing Zach Wilson, but yet you can throw the entire organization under the bus in his defense, and that's fine. I think with Zach, I have opinions on it. I'm sure we can get more into this show. I think if there's some data you could peek at of other quarterbacks who have ended up being pretty good. You look at their first 18 games, you look at his, you kind of want to look away immediately. But he's going to be our starter the next 9 games. So it's a little futile, although I do engage in it more than I should. I think that we have no choice just to root for the kid. Mike White and Chris Trevler and Joe Flacco, come on, these are not viable options. And I'm not talking about draft prospects when we have a 5-3 football team that can make the playoffs. So Zach Wilson, he's the guy the next 9 games. So the only decision do we have is do you want to be a Jets fan the next 9 games, or do you want to root against the kid? It's our only choice. And at the end of the season, we're going to evaluate it from there. And there's so many variables that we don't even know how the dominoes are going to fall. And he's the shot we got right now. So whatever shot you think he has of making it, he's the shot we got. We got to roll with him. I will say this though. I think the ball security has been a strength of his. I think that was kind of an outlier with just chucking it up for grabs. against the Patriots. So I'm not really worried about Zach Wilson throwing a ton of interceptions or fumbling the football. I think the concerns are you never know, like, is a young quarterback just going to see it? Like, is it just going to slow down for a guy? And that's the hardest thing to project from college to the NFL, because if you just went on, oh, he's got the speed, he's got flashes of arm talent, he's just got to get more consistent, he's got to put it together. Like, you just don't know if a guy has that until you see it. And I hope over the next 8-9 games we see a lot more of it.
By the way, I just have to say, I love that we don't, I mean, we chat because we're good pals, but we don't like normally coordinate our clothes, but I like the fact I'm repping the Sauce shirt, obviously, and you got Sauce jersey. So very nice that our, your wonderful team behind the camera that's working for you, your whole production team, the people that do the makeup and everything, that we're able to coordinate your people and my people. So beautiful job. Mwah. What a beautiful relationship the show is chosen to be. I've got some Zach Wilson takes, but before we go there, let's bring in Chris K. the Fifth. Again, the YouTube Super Chat is available for all you guys. And Chris, you're a loyal supporter of both my channel, also Buffalo. So again, if you guys would like to check out his channel, the link to his channel is down below in the description. My dude's the greatest boy and the most Buffalo Jet fan there is. My favorite show of the week. Everyone hit the like button, and that's a great reminder. Again, even if you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, hop on over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/boygreen25. Like the video, hit subscribe down below. And if you have the means to do so, feel free to throw a YouTube Super Chat in there that guarantees that your comment gets answered. And yes, we do it every single week, and we alternate between my channel and Buffalo's channel. So if it's on mine this week, it'll be on Buffalo's next week, and vice versa. So keep that in mind. Chris, thank you so much for the support, pal. On the Zach Wilson thing real quick.
Yeah.
I know Robert Sala and Joe Douglas, by the way, double vote of confidence this week. Joe Douglas speaks after the trade deadline, which he did earlier this week, and Robert Sala speaks multiple times during the week, post-game, Mondays, Wednesdays, and then we'll get another one on Friday as well. And here's the thing. They all said that Zach Wilson's a guy. Doy. Of course he is, because here's the facts of the matter. Mike White's trash. I'm the Bengals game was cool, and I'm sorry to the Mike White. I'm not really sorry. I was going to apologize to the Mike White fans in our audience, but I'm not. I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to apologize to absolutely no one. Mike White's trash. He had the cool Bengals game, and we all had phases in our life which we thought were cool, and then we walked away from it and said, oh, so it was just that. That's all it was. Yeah. So again, Mike White sucks. Joe Flacco's been relegated to the prehistoric age, and that's where he belongs. So Joe Flacco, non-existent, and Chris Streveler's on the practice squad. So let's be real. It's Zach Wilson for the rest of the season. By the way, that's a correct decision because you don't have anyone else viable on the team, and plus you got to see what you have anyway. So it's kind of, you're just in the situation you're in. So I just want to make that clear that there's no other option. But with that being said, again, the thing that makes me feel confident is, first off, what you said, Buffalo. Again, the turnovers were uncharacteristic based on things that we've seen thus far. They came in spurts. The first half, pre-injury for Zach Wilson, all over the ball yard, especially obviously in the New England Patriots game, which was, kind of the precipice for all of it. Then after, he was super clean throughout the rest of the year, particularly in that 5-6 game stretch to end the year. And then this year, when he was healthy and in, because he missed the first 3 games of the season, 3 straight games without turnovers. The fourth quarter against Pittsburgh, no turnovers. So he went a very long stretch before this implosion. And really the implosion, if you want to feel good about it, is that Zach Wilson basically said, I kind of got frustrated, so I was just trying to make something happen, which, again, on one hand, you could say, oh, okay, you could kind of rein that back in. On the other hand, I'm like, whoa, it was too boring. Like, okay, we're not playing Madden out there, Zach Wilson. Rein it in, pal. Like,
I get what he's saying, though, man. I don't think he worded it perfectly, but I think, it's tough. Whenever a coach or a player gets to the podium after a loss, it's like, you can't win. No matter what they say. We want these guys to be honest, and the second we get a little bit of honesty, we're like, oh, we freak out. I get what he's saying. It is frustrating to just have to keep throwing the ball away. Sure. Like, the pocket collapses, or, sometimes he kind of bails. I think the happy feet stuff was kind of more real in this game, whereas most other games, it was just the offensive line. Like the Denver game, it was just the offensive line failing him. And I think in this game, he's starting to get the happy feet. But, dude, if you keep getting hit, it's tough to learn how to be a pocket passer if you don't have a pocket in most of your first 18 games. And I get that, where it's like, how many times you just roll outside, you just throw it away, and it's like a wasted down. I understand Zach wanting to try to make a play at some point, but I think he just has to understand, scoreboard. Like, dude, we were in that game until you started giving the ball away to the other team. But I have no problem with what Zach Wilson said at the podium. I think for me, the questions of his character, his leadership, his work ethic, that's pretty much been beyond reproach, in my opinion. I'm cool
Yeah.
with Zach, the person and the guy in the locker room.
Again, I get it from his perspective. Number 2 overall pick, a lot of hype. Everyone, the Dan Orlovsky's, all these guys talking about thinking Patrick Mahomes,
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, and all these things. I will just say that I think Robert Saleh said it best. And if he said it to me, he certainly said it to Zach. Dude, we're 5-3. We got a great defense. Our special teams normally is good. They were absolute trash against New England and gift wrapped them a lot of points, at least 6 points on top of others. So, and they missed their own 3 points. So that could just within itself, not even talking about Zach, that could have flipped the game entirely. But our defense is awesome. Our special teams is normally awesome. Running game and all these other things are really, really good. So just keep freaking throwing it away. And eventually we're so good, almost like a Saleh, kind of arrogant comment, which I like. We're good enough. Just keep throwing the ball away. Eventually, something's going to open up. But nonetheless, the thing I will just say is this. Zach Wilson's quote-unquote mistakes, turnovers, whatever, have only cost the Jets once in 5 whacks at the pinata. The other 4, they won. So, to me, I think Zach Wilson, just go back, dude, and just calm down. And ultimately, I think it's going to work out. We're getting a lot of these, so let's start with the Buffalo stuff. So the Jets have the Buffalo Bills this week, which obviously a tough thing for a Buffalo Jet fan. The constant Jets-Buffalo stuff happening in your neck of the woods. Fortunately, this one is in the lovely confines of MetLife Stadium. It would be the final home divisional game for the Jets, and the other 3 will all be on the road in the second half of the season, which is an interesting scheduling nugget from that perspective. And guys, the Bills opened as 12.5-point favorites. Money has been flowing towards Buffalo. The latest line I saw was 13.5, and in some books, 14. Everyone does not believe. Yeah, the money, it keeps going. I keep checking with my bookie to keep checking with it. And yeah, the money is continuing to go to Buffalo. So long story short, no one's giving them a lick of a chance, which is interesting because it is being broadcast from a lot of other platforms as a national game, which for good reason, 6-3 versus or 6-2 versus 5-3 or 6-1 because they had the bye week. Whatever. Bills 6 wins, Jets 5 wins, and it's again for this position in the AFC East because the Jets are 1-1 in the AFC East. Bills 0-1. They have not played their other whacks yet. So long story short, I'm seeing a lot of people in here. Steven, I'll throw him up here on YouTube. Hey, Paul, I don't know, but I get weird vibes about this game. I think that Zach is going to ball out. Our defense is going to cause a couple turnovers, and we'll win by a late field goal. I'm going to be honest, Steven, maybe it's just because I claim to be the most optimistic Jets fan on the planet, but something feels weird about this too, that a lot of people are just writing this off as an L. A lot of Jet fans, quite frankly, that I've seen are just saying, oh, we're obviously going to lose this one. We're obviously going to be 5-4. Let's see what happens. Yeah, the Bills are good. They're number 1 in the NFL power rankings, Super Bowl favorite. Josh Allen's good and all these other things, but both of their safeties are going to be out for this game. Tre'Davious White isn't coming back. From everything I've been hearing from Buffalo people, that would be incredibly surprising. They're going to play that slow. I don't know, man.
Matt Milano is hurt. Their linebacker, who's really good.
Matt Milano. There's another one. I'm not so sure that this is what everyone thinks it is. I think the Jets, everything they have travels, and again, this one's at home. Their defense is elite. And I'm looking forward to them getting this opportunity. I shared that stat from Dan Hansis. It was earlier this week that when whoever the leading Buffalo Bills receiver is has over 100 yards, they've won like 11 in a row. When that doesn't happen, that's where the losses are. And the thing I feel confident about is the Jets squared up with Buffalo last year at MetLife. I was at that game, and they competed well, and their corners were not good. And Josh Allen was just going after Javelin Guidry over and over again. There's no Javelin Guidry to go after. First off, he's not even on the roster. There's like no Javelin Guidry. It's Sauce, Michael Carter, and of course DJ Reed. All of them in the top 15 in the latest PFF rankings and in coverage grade. So for me, I wouldn't even call it weird, Steven. I think the Jets have a great opportunity in this game. Again, Buffalo's good, but at the same time, you're giving me 14 points in terms of the spread, and everyone's doubting the Jets. I'm sure Buffalo's overlooking the Jets. Why would they look at the Jets, even with the 5 wins? Because of all the other games that they're going to have down the stretch. So I think this is definitely one that I'm having some good vibes about going in. I'm just going to pull up any other Buffalo ones here. That we want Buffalo. There's Stephen T on that. Oh, very nice. Apparently Buffalo banned Bang Mateo. Okay, there you go. Let's throw some beef in here. Who else did you block? Who's on your list? That's nice. Let's do that. What are your other thoughts here on the initial observation of this Buffalo with the Jets Buffalo line, where Buffalo is a 2-touchdown favorite in MetLife? What do you think of this? Do they have a chance? Do they have a shot?
Yeah, I think they definitely do. I think that there's definitely some recency bias with how bad Zach Wilson played last week. Like I think if we were coming off the fourth quarter in Pittsburgh, we'd feel much more optimistic going into this game. It's kind of hard to wash that out of your mouth. But there's really two things, Paul, that make me feel like we have a chance. I wouldn't put money on the Jets to win. I might put money on them to cover a 14-point spread. I mean, Jesus, at
Yeah.
home. But number one, I do harken back to last year, and I'm like, okay, so what's the biggest talent, the bigger talent disparity?
I saw that tweet from you.
2021 Jets, 2021 Bengals, 2022 Jets, 2022 Bills. I think it's the former by a significant margin, even though the Bills are a powerhouse. But I think that the Bills are not as much, the Bills are not better, follow me, as better than the Bengals, as the Jets are better than they were last year, if that makes sense. So I think that if we won that game last year, that kind of gives me that any given Sunday kind of hope. The game if it was in Buffalo, I mean, I don't know if I could sell you much, but
I see.
At our house, yeah. And the second part is, look, when you become a legitimate football team, with the Jets are, they have anytime you got a great defense and a great special teams, you have a chance to win, and you're at home. Those three things will give you a chance to win. And when you become a legitimate football team, your home games against division rivals should be hotly contested games, even when those division rivals are great. You see it in other divisions. You've seen like when the Seahawks were the Legion of Boom, and like the lowly Rams would split with them. And then when the Rams were Super Bowl contenders and the Seahawks were kind of in the rebuild, they'd split with them. Like they're always picking games off of each other. You see it all around the NFL. Unless you're just a complete doormat like the Jets have been the past 5 years. But I think the Jets should absolutely be in this game, and just they're going to need to steal some points. They're going to need a Braxton Berrios return touchdown, a Sauce pick six. But I just don't see like Josh Allen completely carving up this defense. If you saw it with Green Bay, like they won, they were the better team, but it's not like it was a cakewalk. Josh Allen threw a couple of picks. They were struggling to move the ball consistently, and I think that we can give them similar problems.
I think so as well. By the way, the Bills have won 4 straight in this series and 5 of the last 6. And that includes, again, 4 wins in a row. And the final scores of those have been interesting. Obviously, this is all Josh Allen, Aaron. I'm going reverse chronological here in the 4 lots in a row. 27-17, 18-10, 45-17, which was the MetLife Mike White implosion. Again, he sucks, in case you missed that earlier. And 27-10, which was that Zach Wilson fourth quarter Keelan Cole touchdown, which was really juicy as well. I'll just throw in a couple of random comments. We'll kind of go rapid fire with some of these I'm seeing in here. Vinny and the Jets, let's cut to the chase. What quarter is Zach getting benched Sunday? We all know it's going to happen. Again, it's to me, zero chance. He is not getting benched. I don't care what it is. Maybe, actually, I'll give you this, Vinny. Maybe they bench him in the fourth quarter when the Jets are up 3 touchdowns. Maybe at that point they bring in the backups and they can kind of close out the game victory formation after the Jets are kicking the Bills' Patuki. Maybe that's it. But besides that, there's no benching. Zach Wilson's playing the whole game. Buffalo?
I think he'd have to have a Sam Darnold seeing ghosts type of catastrophe where it's like you're taking him out just because he's like, it's your starting pitcher got shelled and gave up 12 runs in the first inning, and it's just live to fight another day kind of thing. I'm really hoping, I'm banking on last week being Zach Wilson's worst game of the year. That's what I'm really, really hoping. Even it's gonna be a tougher defense, but I don't see it. And like we could have the conversation benching him, and because I've seen people already saying like, we have a good team, we're being held back by our quarterback, you're going to lose the locker room. And it's like, gee, like I understand he's not playing well, but the team is 4-1. He was asked to win 1 game in Pittsburgh and he won it. He was asked to manage 3 games and not lose them, and he did that. Then he was asked to not lose a game, and then he threw it away. So you can't tell me that Mike White, Joe Flacco, or Chris Trevor would be 5-0. They'd be 5-0.
No.
That's crazy. And no one thinks that. Being angry at Zach Wilson is not evidence that Mike White is good. And good, like you say Mike White is trash. You're only saying that because other Jets fans have it in their mind that he's like a starting quarterback. Good for Mike White. There are plenty of quarterbacks who are way more talented than Mike White who have never even started an NFL game. And he's got a ball in the Hall of Fame. No one could ever take that away from him. Could see why coaches like him. Good for Mike White. He's one of the best 100 people in the world at his job. He's going to make generational wealth. He's not a starting quarterback. Everybody knows that. All the other GMs in the league know that. That's why nobody's traded for him while he's been sitting on the pine for the Jets. They all have that film too. You think if somebody picked up the phone and said, hey, we'll give you a 4th-round pick for Mike White, Joe Douglas wouldn't flip it in a second? Of course he would. That offer doesn't exist. If he got cut today, they probably could bring him back in the practice squad. We're just making stuff up because we're frustrated with Zach Wilson. Mike White is not a viable option. We just saw Mike White play Buffalo last year, right? We all remember that.
Yeah. Not good. By the way, Trevor outplayed him in the preseason, and semantics is really the only reason, or politics is the only reason that he wasn't cut in place of Trevor, who again outplayed him in the preseason. Billy SBC, no other option. Edson, Flacco is definitely an option, but they're not going to use it. By the way, he's 3rd string now and has been demoted, so again, not an option, and likely will not be active on game day. And again, they have to develop the number 2 pick. I'll agree with that. Yes, they're trying to play a fine line of both competing and developing him at the same time. And obviously, they've proven, at least in the 5-game sample size we have of Zach Wilson, that they can win while this development is going on because the rest of the team is so good. So, again, I would aggressively push back on that. He is not an option, especially the way the offensive line has been kind of erratic here without AVT. Zach Wilson is escaping the pocket. People seem to be criticizing that fun fact that he's escaping the pocket. And sure, there are some negatives to immediately bailing and cutting your receivers' options in half on that side of the field. But also, if Joe Flacco is back there, it'd be the Bengals game. It's better than 9
sacks a game.
100%.
I mean, yeah, that's just a no-brainer. And it's not like if we had like a Teddy Bridgewater or a Jimmy G as a backup, and then Zach went out there and like laid 2 more eggs, then you could have a conversation. But that hasn't happened.
There isn't.
And there isn't that guy on the team.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. Crypto Samurai here. Do you guys think Robinson will step in and help carry the load of the offense until Zach develops more? I don't know if it's going to be because of that reason. I think James Robinson, again, he showed up within the week of the last game. So it was hard to expect really anything. The more we're going to get through, especially through the bye week. So again, we have Bills, bye week, New England. By New England, I think James Robinson is really going to have his feet wet in terms of really getting a full understanding of this offense. Now, there are some similar concepts here from Jacksonville to the Jets, although they also switched coaching staff several times. So that also obviously affect Robinson. But that's when the expectation will kind of grow more. And also, again, the numbers were kind of skewed with some of the RPOs and the Jets being down 2 touchdowns with some of the run stuff. But they will run him more, but not like in lieu of developing Zach Wilson. Unless, again, if that was Breece Hall you're talking about, hey, we're going to keep running Breece Hall until Zach suddenly shows something in practice, maybe. But you don't have Breece Hall anymore, so I don't think it's going to be that reliant. Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, I think that James Rob, I like the way he looked. I think that he adds some thump. Like, to me, he's like,
for sure,
he's like Breece Hall without. He's like Walmart Breece Hall, right? I think he gives you that in between the in between the tackles, some of that physicality, but that breakaway speed and some of the receiving game ability. There's only one Breece Hall. We're not replacing that until Zach develops more. Look, to me, overall, the goal of the season, you want to develop Zach Wilson, but to me, like, the goal of each week is just to win the game. And I think we have to find some more balance. Like with Mike LaFleur, I don't know enough about. Look, I mean, I put this up here to pretend like I do, but I'm not a huge
missing it. The playbook. Yes.
X's and O's expert. But I do think that we got to stick with the run more. It seems like there's been times where you're down 10 in the second half. You don't have to abandon the run. Actually, if you recall, in Pittsburgh, down that 4th quarter, we were in a hurry up. We remained balanced. Like it was like, okay, boom, little 5-yard run, 2nd and 5, then an 8-yard pass, okay, then a 6-yard run, and that's you have to stay with the run as long as you possibly can, because when you keep looking back up at that scoreboard, it's like, it's still kind of close. It's still kind of close. The last 2 possessions, maybe we didn't need to do that, especially with how our defense is playing. So I think James Robinson, I like to see him get like maybe 12 touches this week. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go to the other one. And guys, in case you missed it, we had a nice, juicy show. What's today? Wednesday. We had it yesterday with Will Parkinson. All the days are getting away from me. We had a Will Parkinson NFL trade deadline special of talking about the move that the Jets made, but also the moves they didn't make, including this question here from Ragnajet on our YouTube channel. Elijah Moore, obviously he was not dealt at the trade deadline. Again, he was healthy scratch against Denver. That was week of all the craziness. Then this past week against New England, played 10 snaps and was a non-factor. Was only targeted once, and that was a batted pass. So now to me, to answer your slot question just kind of in general, it's Elijah Moore time. And I'm not saying like in lieu of Garrett Wilson and lieu of some of these other guys, but he can't be just the non-factor of you barely even playing him out there. The Jets organization could say it wasn't a punishment. That's clearly a punishment. There would be no other reason not to give him the full reps that he had before. So, yes, they were slapping him on the wrist, maybe flexing at him, saying, hey, look, and they won the Denver game without him, obviously. Hey, we can win without you. We don't need you. So humble your ass and then come back. All right, clean up, young buck. Now there's no trade deadline. There's no magic carpet that's going to save you. You're on the team for the rest of the year, so suck it up, and then maybe we can have this conversation again in the offseason. Or you just take advantage of these opportunities through the rest of the year, and then this is a non-story moving forward. So in terms of him in the slot, with Corey Davis, a quote, on the fence for this game, that means Denzel Mims is going to be that big Z, which means you're going to kind of get Garrett Wilson floating. So I'm not sure if it's going to be just primarily slot, but I think that's an easy way to get Elijah Moore in the game, quiet some of the noise. Again, although the noise is kind of over because there's no trade deadline anymore. But I would just try to find a way to get him in because Elijah Moore is good. Hashtag analysis. I know. He's good. He's talented. Getting the ball in his hands is good for business, and that's going to help the Jets offense. So 100%. I'm not so sure. Again, it's just primarily slot work. But again, you just need to get him the ball, and he's going to open up things, especially now that there is no Breece Hall.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Elijah Moore, like last year, it's not. We saw it. We saw it happen. We don't believe your lying eyes. But no, right. And it wasn't one game. It wasn't like Stephen Hill catching 2 touchdown passes against the Bills in that one game. It was a 6-game stretch where nobody could cover him, and it was against like Xavier and Howard. Just couldn't hold his jock. And if you look at some of the advanced analytics and just watch, I mean, he's getting open a ton. Now, the past few games, then it was like a 2-game stretch where he didn't get open. They had the clamps down on our defense. Then he went and he requested the trade, and then now he's back. For me, I'm fine benching him. That's cool. And I'm cool with not trading him. That's fine too. But now that he's here and he's back, like, it's just got to be full go. I don't want to see this quasi doghouse 10 snaps. Like, either if it's too far gone and you trade him and you get your 2nd-round pick back, or you got to use this kid. We have a young quarterback to develop. We have our best wide receiver so far this year is hurt, and our schedule is about to get tough. We gotta find a way to win one of these next 2 games, Paul. If it's not gonna be Buffalo, it's got to be New England. If we're 5-5 and we take both of these 2 L's, our playoff chances are plummeting, and we need Elijah Moore. So to me, whether it's putting him in the slot more or not using him, is just throwing him go balls when he's like 5'9" every single time. I don't think you have to be Andy Reid to understand that's probably not the best way to utilize Elijah Moore's skill set. Maybe giving him some of those end arounds that Garrett Wilson gets, get the ball in his hands. I don't know. It seems to me too like maybe him and Zach haven't really ever developed that chemistry, even though they got drafted together, because Elijah Moore's breakouts last year came with the Flaccos and the Johnsons and the Mike Whites, and then when Zach came back from his injury, Elijah was hurt. And then Zach got hurt again, and then Elijah was benched. So it just seems like, I mean, how many games have those 2 even played together? You could probably count them on one hand, it feels like. So I'm excited to see Elijah break back out. And I think when he does, Jets fans are going to forget that trade stuff and welcome him back with open arms.
And 100%, we can only hope ultimately that ends up being the case for Elijah Moore. So again, fingers crossed he's on the team now. Let's see. For the love of everything that's holy, I hope we don't see any of this. Jay Spector, Zach needs to borrow the Sanchez, red light, green light. Remember, on the sideline, they had the red card, yellow card, green card. That felt so elementary, and I still can't believe that actually really happened. So no, hopefully we don't get to that. Ooh, green, yeah. Go. Be aggressive. Ooh, red. Ooh, not so sure. Nah. Okay. I guess I'll just do this again. Also, other teams can see the cards. People that may have been a thing we overlooked there. 30-year Jets fan on our YouTube channel. Did you watch the Sauce media availability? And I did. Yeah, a couple of really sexy quotes. I'll be covering it for Heavy tomorrow on a couple of them. But yes, he doesn't care who he covers. He also, again, has this confidence. It's not, to me, cockiness. Maybe it even is a little bit, but, when they said, oh, wow, Buffalo's super talented, what the hell are you guys going to do? And he went like, they're good, but we're good. Like, let's see what happens. And again, he just has this bravado about him, which is spectacular. Again, I couldn't have possibly imagined in my wildest dreams that he would be this good this quickly. It's been spectacular to see. So Sauce, future All-Pro, Pro Bowler, we'll see all the accolades. I think in New York and everything, he's going to be getting a lot of them on top of course, the defense rookie of the year, and the Jets have a long history of their rookies winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. So that would be even better. G saying, we have the best cornerback room in the league. Bills receivers should be contained. Again, this will be perhaps their greatest test, although that's probably unfair to say with the Bengals. They did very well, who have a lot of weapons. But again, you've got Stephon Diggs, who's one of the best receivers in football. Gabe Davis, as Robert Sala said, is better this year than he was last year. So he's a very nice player. And then you've just got a lot of depth guys like Isaiah McKenzie and others that are super annoying players that can kind of get a little feisty. So it will be perhaps one of their biggest tests of the year, though, Buffalo, and one that a lot of people will have circled.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think that you gotta find a way to compete. I don't want to have a loser's mentality, but if we do lose, I don't think any of us can be like shocked or go full Joe Beningo if we lose this game. But I think if you find a way to make it a game, into the fourth quarter, we did the game in Buffalo to end the year when it was like McDermott and Ty Johnson out there. I mean, that was a game into the fourth quarter. I think that's all we can ask for.
I want to just go back to your other point. You said, wow, the Jets got to find a way to win one of these two games in 3 weeks, again, Buffalo and New England. To me, you can't, regardless of this Buffalo game, you can't get your ass swept by New England. No. The Jets were the better team. They're the more talented team, and they let it slip through their fingers. And again, you have to worry about Buffalo. Then you get the bye. Then you have New England. By the way, Jets and New England both have the same bye, so they have the same advantage and disadvantage, by the way, which kind of, again, another interesting nugget by the schedule makers. I heard that from our New England guy on the show last week. But the point is that you can't get freaking swept by New England. And I hope that they have it in the back of their head. Again, you got to worry about Buffalo. But us fans, we don't have those restraints. We can talk about any game we want to, and I hope that they just give New England the business there in Foxborough. Again, I'm really hoping for that. One thing I haven't gotten a chance to talk about on any of the shows this week, and by the way, we'll have a couple of Buffalo insiders on the show this week. I think we're supposed to have Greg Thompson tomorrow and the Buffalo Bills sideline reporter Sal Capaccio on Friday. So some good, great Jets Bills preview. So guys, make sure you like the video and hit subscribe on the channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of those live streams coming up. But I wanted to bring this up because Jay Spector brought it up. Matthew Judon disrupted our offense. What is Von Miller going to do? Who again is a freak. Buffalo likes to use a lot of 4-man rushes, and again, with the talent of Von Miller, normally he's infectious energy. You saw it week 1 against the Rams, but even sporadically throughout the rest of the season. Is he so good that you get to focus on him, which opens up one-on-one opportunities for all the other guys like Greg Rousseau and a couple of others who are really talented. But I love the plan the Jets had against Myles Garrett, and they beat him up throughout the whole game. Every freaking rep, he got chipped by a running back and or a tight end before he even got the chance at the offensive tackle. And sure, he went off crazy at first. He had like 2 sacks immediately. Then the rest of the game, he was dead-ass tired. He even complained about it in the availability after, saying, man, they got me. I think they're going to do that same biscuit to Von Miller. Now, Von Miller is still really good, former Super Bowl MVP and everything else, and he's a freak. They're going to give him that same plan, give him the business, and I think then you play your cards with the rest of the Buffalo defense that's going to be coming in. I think that's a strategy I'd employ.
You have to. If it's the trade-off is you can't run the most complex dynamic route concept and your spacing isn't as good. It's worth it. You got to give Zach Wilson a chance because Von Miller not only is a sack artist, when he hits quarterbacks, that ball comes out more often than when a lot of other guys hit quarterbacks. And I think that with the Aboihi, I'm not saying his name right.
Ogbuehi.
Ogbuehi. It's kind of like an office space where like I'm not gonna work here for much longer, right? He's gonna be our right tackle for one more game. You got to give him the Myles Garrett treatment. I think that literally every single pass play, I don't care, and it's just if you leave Ogbuehi one-on-one with Von Miller, it's almost like a 50% chance at a sack. That's the way I feel. And I felt like they should have given that same treatment to Matt Judon personally last week. I think every single game that you have, and it's nothing against the young man. He's doing the best he can. He was on the Houston Texans practice squad a couple of weeks ago. You got to do that. And if he doesn't wreck the game, even if you just give him one sack that doesn't cause a fumble, I think you can live the rest of it. It's interesting. This Bills defense kind of reminds me a lot of the Jets defense. I think the biggest difference is that their linebackers can cover a little bit more, but they run a lot of nickel, and they get home with 4, and they're hell to play. And if you think about it, like if Zach Wilson had to face this Jets defense, I wouldn't be too optimistic about his chances if you want to look at it that way,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I'm seeing this one from Charles Xavier. Bam Knight looks promising, coaching staff inept. I will say this, Charles. I think this is a common problem with Jet fans, to be honest. I think a lot of the times we overrate our own players. Bam Knight, for as promising as he looks, guess what? He's been on the practice squad. There are no practice squad protections. Any NFL team, if they wanted him, could have had him. Guess what? No one took him.
They could have
And
drafted him.
guess
They all
what?
passed on him too.
Yeah, that was the other point I was about to bring up. Anyone could have drafted him. They didn't. Again, it's been cool. A cool couple of pops in training camp. You have the 50-yarder to end practice, at one of the end of the training camps. Cool. Great story. Obviously, the Jets traded for James Robinson for a reason. So we could call the good Stephen Knapp for a lot of reasons. But I don't think many this year, actually, I think they've actually done a respectable job on a lot of levels this year, including Jeff Ulbrich, who everyone had, his head on a pike. I think a lot of them have done a really good job. So I would push back. Again, I love Bam Knight. He's a cool story. I've talked to some of his coaches as I did a couple of pieces in the offseason. Really, really cool. But again, sorry, pal. I just I don't think so. I think sometimes Jet fans, again, just overrate the players from that standpoint. Yeah, I will bring this one up as well. Zach has forgotten how to run forward. I don't know if he's getting in his own head. It was certainly something that was on the tape at BYU. They more so used it situationally in red zone of getting him in running situations. Again, the Jets used it once in a direct run situation, Justin Fields package, essentially, with the Bears' success against New England, where they ran it in the red zone once and they said, never mind, we're gonna duck that. Maybe we don't want to get Zach hurt. But situationally, he 100%. The 4th and 5 everyone brings up as Moses and the Red Sea was parted, and he should have ran for that first down. But just in general, if he could run out a couple of these times when he's escaping the pocket, and again, I think on the whole, that's fine. You want to step up in the pocket naturally, but with how the offensive line is playing, I don't blame him for not always stepping up in the pocket naturally as you would want, which explains some of the skittishness, explains some of the fading in the pocket, and some of the issues that he's had. But he just needs to take a couple. You had the nice one. I think that was against Denver. We gave him the little shake and bake, little whoop, broke that tackle and kept going, which was nice. But again, overall, it doesn't even have to be that splashy. Just taking 3, 4, 5 at a time, and again, manageable. That's what I loved about the Jets' plan, where Michael Ford's pounding to James Robinson or Michael Carter, and then immediately we got a 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4. I'm like, okay, great. We're already off to a great start with some of these opportunities, and then the surprise play action on first down. But I would love to see a little bit more usage from a run perspective on Wilson. Nothing too crazy. Again, you don't want him getting hurt, but I think situationally that's something they could really take advantage of.
Yeah, definitely. And I think at the end of the day, all the young quarterbacks, they run a bit. Right, and it's just part of the game. You gotta learn how to slide. You gotta learn how to not take the hits. But I'd say this: I would rather have a guy who wants to look to keep the play alive for his arm, and then teach him how to run, rather than have a guy who just wants to run and use his legs right away and just get all the rushing yards, and teach him to want to use his arm more. So I will say that I think I'd rather have it this way. I think with the pocket stuff, I think the Patriots game was just I still think it's a lot of recency bias, because that was the first time where it was like he's running without, he was feeling the ghosts. Like, he was hearing the footsteps that weren't there. I think that was the first time I saw that. Whereas it's like, and because I went back and I tried to watch some other games. I actually watched his first ever game against the Carolina Panthers, and actually like I'm watching it. I'm like, the second half against the Carolina Panthers, I'm like, this kid looks great. This kid, do you remember how?
Really
remember how good we felt about after that, the second half of that game? Like, man, this kid is just sitting in the pocket. He's stepping up, taking shots. Like, the offensive line isn't blocking for him. I just think that, I don't know if it's nerves, like. Or if it's just he's getting hit too much, or the most likely scenario is that it's just one game and we're probably putting too much stock into it.
That's probably true. By the way, I've been seeing this question a lot, so this is a great opportunity to address this. JMG7825 on YouTube. Why did Salah bench Zach after the second pick? Bringing in White would have ignited the crowd. He would have hit checkdowns. He would have had a chance to win the game. I'm more so talking about the first point, because a lot of people said, why didn't they bench him? Actually, Salah was pretty blunt this week, saying that he doesn't want Zach Wilson to start looking over his shoulder every time he makes a mistake, knowing the hook's going to be there, or else he's going to play even more frantically than he played in the New England game, because he'd be afraid to get yanked. And then you're towing this line of, okay, I need to play extra safe, or I got to make a play to make sure my ass doesn't get bent. So to me, Again, everyone plays it different. There's a million ways to skin a cat. In my specific opinion, I agree with Salah that you can't just yank him for the sake of yanking him. Again, if there's 3 or 4 or 5 future blow up 4 or 5 interception games, and obviously it's a different conversation. The first time he ever struggles, that to me would be wildly overreactionary. So I've seen that a lot, and I just wanted to make sure that we address that. And so I think, again, this isn't Madden. All right, this kid doesn't have it. Weep, whoop, whoop. Like, there's emotions, there's people involved. And again, he's your number 2 overall pick. Can you imagine the questions he'd be getting after getting yanked and every one that would come after? That would be tough. Jay Stones, how many interceptions versus Buffalo? Over, under number, Buffalo? What do you think for old Zachy?
I think 1. I think he throws 1. I'm hoping that's the number I'm hoping for, because I think even good quarterbacks, so you could have a great game as a quarterback and throw 1, but I don't see us being able to overcome multiple turnovers and win this game. So I'm hoping it's 1.
Same. Again, I think this is probably, again, I keep using the hashtag analysis. I think the Jets have to have A-, A+ game, and Buffalo has to be somewhere off their kilter for the Jets to win, because I think the Buffalo roster is immense. I think Josh Allen is a spectacular superstar who can both run and pass, and when he has the threat of running, you have to account for it, which puts some favorable situations on the back. And again, I love our cornerback play, but then they're just going to eat you alive in the run. And obviously, the acquisition of Nyheim Hines, similar to the James Robinson late in the week, and the Nyheim Hines was even later because he came in on a Tuesday with the trade deadline. Yeah. Robinson was traded technically on the Monday. So they have even less time. But obviously he was part of that unit that killed the Jets last year in the Colts game. They allowed 260 yards rushing. Nyheim Hines had 76 yards with 12 per clip. So Nyheim Hines is incredibly quick. That's one to certainly circle from that, and they will definitely lean on that running game, certainly if they have to. For me, I'm hovering that same situation. I think the Jets got to force a few turnovers, and the Jets play that quote-unquote game manager football. I think that's their best chance to win. So I'm shooting for that 1 interception marker, obviously, hopefully none. But, yeah, if we're going like off a half, it definitely has to be 1. If they go beyond that, I would be very surprised if somehow the Jets were able to win the game losing the turnover battle in that standpoint. I don't think that would be there. And man, it's just interesting that I'm seeing a million comments like this. Zach Wilson's obviously a bust. And Gilbert, I'm just picking on you because I'm seeing like 100 of these in here. That so many guys. Again, we got 18 games, people. For Pete's sake, let's get off the ledge a little bit for all these.
But even if he is, like, let's say he, in your mind, it's a free country. You know, you're allowed to say that.
Yeah, sure.
You can come to my channel, and I read it all day long too, Paul. I mentioned that Zach Wilson makes one nice throw, and I'm a homer because he's a bust. We know all that. But the thing is, even if you think he's most likely a bust, what should we do about that right now? The trade deadline is gone. We're not trading for Lamar Jackson, spoiler alert. And we've been through the backup quarterbacks on a roster and how they're not it. So even if you think there's like a 2% chance that Zach Wilson's the guy, that's the 2% we have to roll with for the next 9 games. And you mentioned being benched for Mike White. But as horrible as it was, and as much as I was losing my ever-loving mind on Jets Twitter, if you happen to follow me during that game, actually I wouldn't recommend it. It's not pretty to me during a Jets game. That's why I will never live stream a Jets game. Nobody ever wants to see it. It's horrific. But even if you asked me after that third horrible interception and you said Buffalo for the remainder of this game, who gives us a better chance to win, Mike White or Zach Wilson? I think I'm still going Zach. Am I crazy?
No, and so am I, by the way. Again, almost purely off the talent level alone, because here's the thing. Mike White, really, here's the nature. Again, in case you missed it, Mike White's trash. I want to keep repeating that as often as I can. I'm not sure what the Vegas over-under number on Mike White was trash by Boy Green on the show, but we're slamming the over. Mike White is so not talented. And you know what? If he wants to be insulted by that or the Mike White stands, fine. He was a 5th-round pick. So he's not as talented as Zach. So he can't even think about attempting some of the things Zach Wilson has to. So he has no other choice but to play within the realms of the offense and hope that's good enough. So initially against the Bengals, Mike White, who the hell is Mike White? Not prepared for him in any way.
He's like a Madden creative player.
100%. Who the hell is this? Deep thrower, this thrower? They had no idea who this guy was. So he comes in and shocks them, right? Okay, it's the first quarter against Indianapolis. That's irrelevant. Wipe that off the board. Not enough to be able to determine. And then he gets annihilated by Buffalo. As soon as they said, oh, wait a second, all he can throw is this, press up. He has no other choice, and he folded like a used lawn chair. So, like, Zach Wilson has the capability of making the dangerous play, which obviously opens up the ceiling and floor, because the floor shrinks obviously because he's more capable of throwing turnovers because he's trying more risque things. But on the other side, the big plays are also there as opportunities. We heard it from Jalen Mills, New England, leading up to the game in Buffalo early on. I'll share a couple more of those clips tomorrow about the danger of getting him outside the pocket. Sure, that gives us opportunities, but it gives them opportunities, especially when you have Garrett Wilson man beater, Elijah Moore man beater, and I think the tight ends are really interesting as well. Again, the linebacker play is fascinating, but from Buffalo's standpoint, with Edmonds, who's an alien, and Robert Sala loves that guy, and Milano as well. So that's going to be a challenge from the tight end perspective. But man, I am riding the Zach Wilson train until the gosh darn wheels fall off. And to me, again, we're nowhere near that point, at least for me. So I wanted to make sure that we get this in here. And overall, I want to make sure we get to this point. I've seen a lot of this from the Breece Hall injury, AVT injury, and just in general losing to New England and it being 13 in a row. People, I'm going to break some news here. The Jets season is not over. Okay, I've seen a lot of people say that. I've seen a few comments in this chat. They're going to lose 5 in a row. They're going to
5 in a row.
Yeah, apparently, yeah, that was one that was earlier in the chat there. The floor is going to fall out. They're 5-3, people. If the playoffs started right now, they'd be the 5 seed going to Baltimore. Okay, there's only what
I like that matchup, by the way, Paul. I'll tell you that.
I do too. I like again getting another run at the mill, so to speak. And you give me Zach Wilson instead of Joe Flacco's old ass. Like, let's just see what happens, especially with the development of the corners by that point. Like, let's see what happens. I'm intrigued. And either one, by the way, Bengals, if they even make it with that trash-ass offensive line, because I think that was a fluke. Like, how the hell did the Jets defensive line not dominate in that game? I digress. I'd like either one of those in the playoffs if we can get them. So freezing cold takes my ass if the Jets get that playoff opportunity, which, by the way, would be great. I'd like to end the 11-year drought. But if we get there and the Ravens or Bengals give us a business, fine. But, like, if the playoffs started today, they'd be in. There's only like 2 or 3 teams that have a better record, Chiefs, Bills, and God knows who else. Like, come on, people. Like, everything is still in front of the Jets. And then again, when I look at that juicy schedule and you think about all the teams that are blown up. So I already thought the Bears were trash. Then they got rid of Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn. That made things a little easier. TJ Hawkinson leaves. Now, I know he goes to the Vikings, so the Jets also play, but the Lions, the Lions getting lesser. That one looks winnable. Bears looks winnable. Jaguars, I can't wait for that Jaguars matchup because I want Zach Wilson to ball out and Trevor Lawrence to look like the scrub that he is. And the terrible interception against Denver and the Red Zone. Like, what was he thinking? Trevor Lawrence, the second coming of Jesus Christ. Like, oh, okay. And look at that garbage-ass interception he threw. If Justin Simmons didn't pick off that ball, 4 others were waiting. Next, please, in the back of the end zone on that crap throw. And also at the end, he throws that trash throw. I'm not hearing anybody chip-chap about Trevor Lawrence all of a sudden.
I've had that one circled too, man. I've had that one circled all summer. Jacksonville Jaguars fans just losing their mind because, and the only thing they've said, and look, him and Zach can both be good. They could both be bad. The point is we don't know. And honestly, there's some things there's some skills I like about Trevor. So I'm just poking fun at their fan base. But the idea that there's like a significant amount of evidence that Trevor Lawrence will be a better professional quarterback than Zach Wilson or Justin Fields or any of these guys, it's just been so laughable. The turnovers, if you look at the like just total amount of touchdowns versus total like fumbles and interceptions, it's crazy. Especially people, we should have taken Justin Fields. Justin Fields is literally the most fumble-prone quarterback in NFL history to start his career. He's fumbled 24 times in 18 games. Zach Wilson 5 times in his career. Could you imagine what Jets fans would be saying about Zach Wilson if he fumbled 1.5 times per game? They would banish him to Siberia. They would exile him. And with Trevor Lawrence, and now the best part is when we beat Jacksonville, then Jags fans will have to do the awkward thing of when they have to insist that their entire franchise is so poverty to defend their quarterback from having a horrible record and being 0-2 against Zach Wilson. I can't wait for that.
100%, and I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be juicy. I'm looking again. Trevor Lawrence. I called him garbage. Like Mike White is really garbage, but like Trevor Lawrence has shown some signs, but like nowhere near the signs that people are talking about. Like I'm seeing so much tunnel vision with Trevor Lawrence. Like I'm seeing from like The Athletic and a couple other places are going out of their way to say, wow, Trevor Lawrence looks spectacular in that one drive in the second quarter. I'm like, what? What about this? What about this? What about this?
It's just confirmation bias.
I'm
Davis Mills had a better rookie season than him.
It's a lot of draft stuff. Like whatever you thought, again, the Justin Fields people for the Jets, draft second Justin Fields, look at the stats, pal. Like, it's just people trying to reconfirm what they originally said. Or like the Josh Allen hate for a long time of like his accuracy sucks. And then we just tried to do it until it was undeniable. Like, okay, actually Josh Allen is good. But like, that's the thing that I think people try to shove down people's, throats. And again, Trevor Lawrence, super questionable. And I just want the narrative to be the same, that I live in a world where we can have equal representation and equal hate for all the quarterbacks. I'm not just saying, hey, love Zach Wilson, hate everybody else. I'm just saying, let's spread the hate. That's the most American thing we can all do is spread the hate.
We're very good at that.
100%. So let's throw a couple more people under the bus and run them over. I mean, it's the holidays, for Pete's sake. Let's get in the mood. I just want to make sure that I threw that out as well. So let me get this straight here, Buffalo, as we're coming to the conclusion, guys. If you have any final comments, questions, super chats, feel free to throw those in there. Again, we're set to be on for another 10 minutes at the maximum here, maybe a little bit less. So feel free to send in any final comments here. But is your gut saying that the Jets, no matter what, are going to cover this 14-point spread, which I believe it's at? Someone just texted me that I think I got 14 on the line. So if that 14 line holds, are you like, oh, the Jets are definitely covering that? But so answer that. And then also, do you believe there's a win there? If so, like put some level of a percentage on it that you could see it happening.
Well, I think I'm not fully confident we're going to cover, and it's not necessarily an anti-Jets take. It's just that this is an absolute powerhouse that is, and they're nasty everywhere. And to me, like the biggest improvement they've made, and they've understood the assignment. Like they are really the blueprint on how you turn your shit around as a franchise, from the coach to getting the quarterback. And then they just drafted a defensive lineman every freaking draft, every first round for the last 4 years. And that defensive line is not the defensive line that we've seen from them in years past. Rousseau and obviously Miller. And they got this big boy named Tim Settle. If you don't know him, you're going to know him halfway through the first quarter. This guy is an absolute animal. Obviously, Ed Oliver, not as good as Quinnen Williams, same draft, but he's a problem too. So it could get ugly. And I think, to me, it could get ugly, not with a bunch of turnovers from Zach Wilson, but I think if there's a lot of 3 and outs and we're not able to sustain drives and keep their offense off the field, there's only so much our defense is going to be able to hold up. Like this Bills team, I've seen them play bad. I saw Josh Allen throw like 3 horrible interceptions against the Rams, and they blew him out. I saw him do the same thing against the Packers.
It was Green Bay. He just had like 2 or 3 picks,
2 or 3 awful picks, and they beat the reigning MVP by double digits, and they did the same thing to Tennessee. So they just have a different gear to them. It could get ugly. Percent chance they win. The Jets win. I think if the Jets and Bills played 10 times, maybe the Jets beat them twice. It's not crazy. That's it's not. It would probably maybe be the biggest upset of the week, maybe of the NFL season.
Oh, definitely of the week, but it could be of the season. It very well could be.
So we'll see, man. I'd give us a 2 out of 10. I don't know if that's too. I'm just trying to be real, man. I don't know what people want me to say.
Again, that's actually higher than I thought. I thought you were going to say 1 out of 10, if not 0 out of 10. But no, to me, I think the thing that gives the Jets the best chance to win, first off, is their defense. The Bills, if you guys haven't watched them this year, the thing that is one of the most impressive statistics is I believe they have single-digit punts on the year. I think through all their games, they're at like 9 punts. It may be 10 or 11 now, but I think I saw that heading into the Green Bay game. Like they've punted like 9 times. So long story short, obviously they can score at will. They can score quickly. We saw that in the Rams game. So there could be bombs for touchdowns. That can kill you. The combination of run and pass can kill you. And the fact of the matter is they can hold – we saw this a lot last year with the Jet defense, even when they showed signs that – and they were playing – Wentz could hold them out and, again, use Robert Sala's quote, drag them into deeper water, and then they find out they can't swim. the gasping for air, this Jets defense, because they're on the field so long. So that's a concerning factor for me heading into this one, because Buffalo has that capability. They can run their offense any way they want. They could do it full court press. They could play slow half court offense. That's the thing that scares me. They can adjust to what they're playing. And again, they're spectacular. But to me, that's going to be it. And getting after Josh Allen, of course. So if Quentin Williams can disrupt and penetrate the way it was in the Aaron Rodgers Packers game, oh shit. Like, okay, now Josh Allen's going to have to do all the kinds of the crazy crap of trying to roll out, and maybe that feeds into Bryce Huff season. That's really what the Jacob Martin trade meant to me. More Bryce Huff, who's been elite in terms of his pass rush opportunities. He's only going to get more. Jermaine Johnson, that's news from Robert Saleh. He's going to be active this week. He will be back after missing the last 3 games. That's only good news. And the big test, of course, will be on the linebacker. C.J. Mosley has been caught a couple of times in coverage, although he should have had the pick against Denver. I still don't understand that. And then he dropped the one against New England. So he's had a few opportunities as well to eat. So I want to see that as well. I would say, again, if they play 10 times, realistically, the Jets may win one of those. Again, Buffalo's just good. They're fantastic. And they're inside the division. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. Again, if this Jets 5-3 team is in any other division, they'd be in first place talking about a division title. But you know what? Yeah. We can't cry or whine about that because we don't have a magic wand to be able to change it. So you just have to deal with the team that's in there, and that is Buffalo. They're the beast, and that's going to be a great challenge for the New York Jets. And I'm intrigued. I hope the defense is hyped up, because everyone's talking about this Bills offense, and then they could come in and really make a statement. I thought they did against Green Bay, but with all the questions about Green Bay, not everyone gave the Jets the full credit they deserve for that. But you do it against Buffalo, that's the statement to the rest of the league and to make something potentially happen here. So I'm really excited for this opportunity for the Jets defense to square up against Buffalo's offense. Everyone's going to talk about Zach Wilson and what he does against this elite Bills defense, who, again, is going to be missing their 2 starting safeties and some on top of that. But I think that's going to be the real challenge for this Jets defense. If they start doing that, again, it goes back to everything we just said. Run game, control game manager, and then all of a sudden you have opportunities. I will say the one other nugget here is the Bills' offense has not been stopped and they have not been contained. Even when they haven't been operating on all cylinders, they still drop 20-plus points. So the Jets are going to have to find creative ways to score, whether that's fake punts, whether that's special teams, whatever that is, they're going to have to find ways to actually do this. And I'll use this YouTube super chat that just came in to kind of send our conversation through the final leg here. So let me pull that up. Crypto Samurai here. Jumping in. And by the way, thank you so much, everyone. Anytime you get, it means the world to me. I get tickled. I run in after our shows and run to my fiance. Oh my God, I go to super chat. She went, shut up, we're going to bed. I'm like, okay. But I bragged to everybody. I throw it on my virtual refrigerator and tell my mom about it. So I really appreciate it. Crypto Samurai, can the Jets lose a really close game and still gain momentum and confidence? I hate moral cookies, Crypto. I'm going to say that off the top. I hate that quote unquote loser mentality. However, in this particular case where you have nothing to lose, I'm not quite sure. It's just like, man, I can't wait to lose by 3 and spin that next week. But I just think that you come into this game where all the pressure's on Buffalo, like literally all of it. Buffalo's a team that's only lost once, and even their one loss, people have questioned with the Miami Heat and not the Miami Heat, the basketball team, the Miami ... Heat at that time, and all the kind of weird factors that were in that game. So that's their only blemish. Again, all the pressure on Buffalo. Everyone expects the Jets to lose. So when you could go into that game with a little gravy and see what happens, and it's weird that a 5-win Jets team is being overlooked in this fashion by the national media, obviously in Vegas. I think this is just an interesting game where I'm willing to buckle my chin strap and just see what happens in this one. So I think, yes, if you lose a close game, the Jets, Robert Saleh, everyone will spin it that way inside their locker room. They will not come up and say, wow, gee willikers, we were right there. Like Robert Saleh was like, screw that. We're playing to win. And again, as Zach Wilson said earlier this year, that when we lose, we're shocked because we expected to win. What do you make of this as our final thing here, Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta grow in increments, right? And I think that last year, you know, we were never truly competitive with them. And if it can look like we're playing kind of the same sport as these guys, and that's a huge win. And you mentioned the Miami Dolphins. It's interesting because the Jets are going to have to do something different than they normally do. They don't blitz, and the Dolphins blitzed Josh Allen the second most times he's been blitzed in his career in that game. And that's what I would do. I would say Sauce, get Diggs, or DJ Reed, get Gabe Davis, whatever in between, and you just got to light them up because you have to force negative plays and turnovers against this Bills. You can't just line up first, second, third down and expect to keep them off the field. They're too good. They're too good. And this Bills offense, you look at the advanced analytics, it's just absurd. I came across one nugget. It said 56% of their touchdown drives this year, they never got to third down. They don't even need third down.
What a stat.
At halftime, they just...
That's stupid. That's
it's
stupid.
freaking ridiculous, man. So you got to sack him. You got to force some turnovers. You got to get aggressive, and you know what? And that is more risk. So it maybe increases the likelihood of you getting like blown out. But I take that rather than death by a thousand paper cuts. And with Josh Allen, like how many times do you see people get pressure on him and then he squirrels his way out of there and it's a bomb or he's taken off? Like you got to send multiple bodies around him, collapse the pocket, trust your corners. Yes, I think we can keep it competitive. But to me, this is the only team on the schedule that there's a moral victory for. I think every other, because they're the best team in the NFL. All the rest of them, like the Vikings, are the 2 seed. But come on, I'm not holding my head up high if we lose a close game to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm sorry.
All right, so let's end this on a prediction. What is your official prediction for this game laid on the line?
I think that I think it comes out, and in the first half, people watching across America and the Bills are kind of like, whoa. What is this Jets defense? This is a different animal. And I think we go into halftime and it's probably around a tie score. And I think the Bills are probably a little bit too much and they pull away. I got Buffalo winning this one 27, Jets 17.
Okay, and that's a game, by the way, that they played both within the last 4 games. That was one of the scores. I'll say this. Maybe I'm crazy. I think the Jets shocked the world here. Robert Sala's gotten pelts before. He beat the Bengals that went to the Super Bowl. He beat the Tennessee Titans that were the number 1 seed in the AFC. He has an affinity for getting pelts, and I can only imagine the songs that he's singing in the locker room coming off a loss, so it's perfect to humble these guys after winning 4 games in a row. To sing that and sing Buffalo, and I'd put that 14 points right on the board with the permanent marker. Pull the cap off and go. There you go, 14 points, boys. Losers. Yep, we're just going to go out there and lose. That's what people are going to say. Let's see what happens. And, man, that's the hype speech I'm having for this game. And again, an opportunity on a quote-unquote national stage to tell everybody who you really are. I have the Jets winning this game 30-28. I think you have to score points. I would be flabbergasted if the Jets defense, as good as they are able to hold the Bills under 20 points and win this game. No, to me, I just don't think it's possible. Maybe they prove me wrong and they just do this elite performance. But I think you have to have a lot of great defense to win this game. But I think for the Jets to have any chance, they have to score 25 plus points to even think about winning this game. Points are going to be at a premium. Points at a premium for the Jets. They need to score them to have a chance. That's the prediction. We'll see what happens. And again, we'll give Buffalo a chance here to promote anything else he's going to have on the channel here. We're going to have multiple Buffalo insiders on the channel. So guys, bell notification. I don't want you guys to miss these interviews. Of course, if you miss them live, they're always posted after the fact. But again, we're supposed to have Greg Thompson of Cover One Buffalo, a great Buffalo Bills content creator over there for the Cover One podcast. And Sal Capaccio, you may have heard of him, the Buffalo Bills sideline reporter, joining me on Friday to break everything down. That should be Friday at 1:30. So, guys, more Jets Bills content leading in this week. And Buffalo, before we get you out of here, give us a plug for your channel. Link in the description if you guys are unfamiliar. And Buffalo, line us up for what we have this week on your channel.
Come on by. I'll be breaking down this game. Trying to get a video every day, every other day. I'll be linking up with Ian from Jet Central, I think tomorrow or Friday to break down the game. The most fun for me, though, is if you come by after the game. I do a live stream. I have a bunch of people on. Some of them you may know. Paul, we'll get him on eventually. He's a busy man.
Eventually.
He's a dad. We'll get him on sometime. So that's fun. So right after, if you come over right after the game, like 15 minutes after it's final, come hang out. Always a good time.
There you go. And, of course, right here on the Heavy on Jets YouTube and my Twitter account, we go about 2 hours after because, again, we have to give it's part of our contracts. I can't go at the same time as Buffalo, so I have to be at least 2 hours removed. Again, it was part of his legalese to do this show, so I can only respect it. So 2 hours after every Jets game, we go live right here as well for the post-game show. Buffalo, phenomenal show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see both of you guys throughout the rest of the week with both of our content on all channels. Buffalo, thanks, pal.
Take care, everybody. Good night, Paul.
There he is, Buffalo Jet fan. And guys, thanks for tuning in for another late night edition of the Buffalo and Boy Green Show right here on our Heavy on Jets Facebook page or YouTube channel and my Twitter account. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.